Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on The Bonus Points. Today we're doing another one-off related to fan favourite game here, Humanity. But this time, because it's Ollie and I, we have decided to turn it into a competition because we have to turn everything into a competition, don't we?
Yeah, I kind of hoped we weren't going to focus too much on the competitive angle, but basically we've both made stages and sent them to the developers of Humanity, and they've given them a playthrough. I think multiple people on their team have played them and then given us some feedback, and then after that we actually were lucky enough to speak to the developers themselves, so we have an interview with them too.
Yep, and they set a category as well. They told us that the levels have to be Foliage Frenzy themed levels. Yeah. So we had that in mind when creating them. And yes, we have the little interview with them later on as well. And I think the winning stage is going to be featured in the game as well, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe... Yeah, I don't know. There was something else. They had another idea, and I don't know if they're going to do that, but I guess we'll see. You can find them anyway. We'll make sure to put the codes on the screen so you guys can play them too.
Yeah, so hopefully you enjoy.
Okay, so here we are with CJ and Mark McDonald from Enhanced Games. CJ is the user experience director and a big reason we're able to do this interview today, so thanks so much for reaching out to us.
Thank you,
Seriously.
CJ.
Sure.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for playing Humanity and for creating stages. This is great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we love it. Yeah. And I've been following Mark's career for a long time as a fan of 8-4 Play podcast and of 8-4 and the work you've been putting out. But I looked up your role at Enhance and I couldn't really get a layman's terms.
It's like it's a funny bunny title. Don't worry about that. I basically just do well, first of all, thank you. That's really cool that you listen to 8-4 Play. I don't know why anymore, but that's nice that if you still do listen to it. But I do basically kind of I see my role as whatever it needs to get done. I think I was credited as executive producer on Humanity. My enhanced title is has to do with biz dev and production, but it's just basically like high level down to low level, if it's rewriting a press release or saying, hey, we really should have multiplayer, or we don't need to have multiplayer, or what are we doing about the physical version of whatever. I'm kind of all over the place all the time. In the Japanese industry, it's thought of as like a producer, but that's very different from what it is in the Western sense. So yeah, for the sake of Humanity, executive producer, let's just say.
Yeah. So do you actually work Monday to Saturday and you only have one day off?
No, so because part of our office, like CJ right now, right, I'm in Tokyo and CJ is in Seattle, and a bunch of, especially the publishing team, the PR and community folks are in America on Western time, and so I do generally work Monday to Friday. Sometimes on Saturday mornings I'll just kind of check in because that's Friday on the US time and just see what's going on. And then my Mondays are more quiet, but yeah, there's stuff going on all over the place. We don't have many people in Europe yet, but we'll see where that goes. We were just discussing how terrible lining up the time zones are. So,
Sorry, an extra special thanks needs to go to CJ for getting up in the early hours of the morning to jump on here.
CJ.
Absolutely.
Yes. Oh, no problem.
I was just asking because it seems like you do a lot. There's a lot going on at all times at Enhance. Obviously, you've been working on this game for 5 or 6 years, and you worked with are they called THA or that?
THA. Yeah, I wanted to call them the as well, but they're THA Limited, kind of a design centric studio, which Ollie, you know all about that, I guess, but headed by this guy Yugo Nakamura, who is really well known in design circles, and you could see that in the game, but I had never heard of them. It turns out their office was a block from 8-4 where I used to work and where we still do the 8-4 Play podcast. I mean, a block away from it. So we were going there once a week right up until COVID. They were just right across Shibuya. Our office was was there in downtown Shibuya, and yeah, we had a great working relationship with them. We ended up really like co-developing the game with them, and then taking on the publishing duties. So
yeah, that's actually what we were wondering, because we tried to talk about it in the podcast episode, but we weren't exactly clear like who is doing. Like we didn't know if you were just publishing and they developed it, or so like
a lot of places because we especially, I think we recently updated on our Steam page, but for example, it was just easier to say like, okay, especially if you've got one space for a publisher and one space for a developer, we would just put THA as the developer and enhance as the publisher. But it's not really the case, right? We're not like Devolver or something like that, where we publish games that that are mostly a single developer work. Every game we've done so far has been like co-development projects, so including like Tetris Effect and Res Infinite, which we developed with Monstars, who are largely ex-employees of Q Entertainment, Mizuguchi-san, my boss's old company, but they are a separate company. But the team embedded with them, and the team for this game, for Humanity, was much the same. It was, from the outside, it'd be hard to tell who was from what company. It was just a real cohesive team, and it was just kind of divided by roles, and there was a lot of overlap. And yeah, we're not that big of a company. And so it's cool to hear that it seems like, we have a lot of stuff going on. We try to punch above our weight as much as we can. But yeah, this being a 5-year, 6-year game was definitely like, that was not lost on us. Like that was a huge amount of time. Previously, our other games had been, between 2 and 3 years. So this one definitely stretched the limits.
It was always
Sorry.
I was gonna say, it just always really stood out on like when it would be like a PlayStation kind of like showcase style event, and like Humanity would pop up, because it was just so different to everything else you'd see. It would always be like, oh yeah, like this thing, when you see the mad crowds, and there's always like, like obviously we know it's true now, but you'd always be like, is this like legit? Is this like what it's gonna be like when I'm playing it on PlayStation with like that many crowds? And like it was always such a joy when like you'd be like reminded like, oh yeah, like Humanity's still coming. Like it would always be like a big of enough gap that it's kind of, you've kind of started like it's dropped from your kind of consciousness, and then like reminding you, and then obviously leading up to the release, kind of getting to see like the actual gameplay, and then the demo as well, which Ollie and I, we played together.
Yeah,
and we were just giddy with excitement after playing through that demo. It just seems like such a, as we mentioned before we started recording, we've been a fan of a lot of your previous work as well. But then it would just seem to merge kind of everything we like from your style of game. So we were very excited.
That was really cool. Your guys' demo experience, as I heard you recounting it in the deep dive, the review, was something that we kind of hoped would happen. Like specifically when me and Mizuguchi-san would play builds, and this went over for years, but we would dip in. We would not playing it every day, both for practical matters, but also to kind of keep separated, to keep like a little bit of perspective as much as we can on the game. When we would play it, we would generally play it together a lot of times together, unless we specifically wanted to play it separated and not influence each other on something, which also did happen. We would play it together, and it was really fun and really interesting doing it that way. And also what one person would notice and the other one wouldn't, or like sometimes there'd be, wait, oh, you're solving this a totally different way than I did. So it was really interesting that you guys had such a great time with the playing the demo, kind of almost kind of couch co-oping it.
And we realized that we completely were solving things differently. But I guess it's probably a hard thing for, obviously you can test the levels and make sure that they work, but it's probably hard to work out if the game's fun, because if you know the solution, you don't know what's fun. Right. And we might have a joy of like, oh wait, we can do this thing, and that's like a big special moment because it's me discovering it. But if you've played that same level 10 times, it's like, would this be fun for anyone? Whereas if if you're designing a platformer of a shooter, it potentially would be fun every time. Whereas for at least the story, the discovery and the aha moment can't be recreated with multiple playthroughs.
It's exactly right. It's like people talk about making putting comedy in games, and I think it's something similar when you've heard a joke 100 times at different speeds and different every little tiny iteration on it, when it starts and when it stops, and if a word is cut out or not or whatever. A lot of that is like polishing a puzzle game and iterating and moving a block. Maybe you guys experience this now that you're level creators, but moving a block, literally moving a block one block away, can really, like, no hyperbole, change the entire complexion of a level. And what it says to your brain, like the amount of stuff that our level designers must know. I feel like I got a class in the game and I was more removed from it, but just watching how the levels changed and how they iterated, you're seeing so many different subtle things that you have to really trust your gut and your intuition, because you don't have the aha moment anymore. You start with the aha, knowing that, and almost kind of working backwards from it half the time. And so it was a lot of user testing, a lot of user testing, and getting people in who hadn't played the game already so far. But that only takes you so far. You can't user test every single time you move a block, a block away. So some of you just really have to go with your gut and what you kind of think and believe. And part of that is we didn't really know how well we did until we started the public playing the demo, despite having a closed beta, pretty significant closed beta, and a whole bunch of rounds of user testing. You don't really know how you did with any game, but especially a game like this, until it gets out into the public. And that's why we were so gratified to hear folks like yourself enjoying it and getting really pretty positive reviews. We just felt really like lucky and blessed, and people kind of got it right, what we were going for.
I was gonna ask about that, because like what's crazy is that it seems like quite an abstract thing to explain to someone, but I feel like as soon as you've seen it for 3 seconds maybe, you're like, oh, I completely understand what I'm meant to be doing, right. Or like what the game actually is. Even though obviously it looks crazy, the actual concept itself is so solid that it's like, oh, I literally just look at it and I completely get what you're trying to do. Do you, like, how far along the process was the prototype when you first saw it? Like, was it, almost a complete game, or?
No, it wasn't a game. It was just, when Mizuguchi-san saw it at a Unity showcase, it was really a tech demo. It was like, hey, I'm using Unity and I'm pushing however many 3,000, let's just say it was, people at once, and they're all able to react to different things and move around and what have you. You could find that video on, I think it's on THA's website. You can see the video that they had released before we ended up signing the game and making it into a game. So it had hints of what could be perceived as a game, but it was there were blocks falling and stomping on people, and people were shooting each other, and there was no dog, and there were no commands, there were no arrows or any of those little floating things we call command in the game. But we, when we engaged THA on it, we were like, so what is it? What are you thinking that it is? And they were kind of like, well, we don't really know, but there is something there. Like, we have different ideas we would love to explore. And we're like, well, we see all kinds of possibilities in this. So yeah, like, let's explore that and talk about that together. But there was no game to it yet. But pretty quickly it did hit upon this, like, okay, get from the source to the goal. And then again, pretty quickly after that too, the dog came in, and it really felt like it gelled together, that you were dropping these commands, not just you disembodied populace, God, dropping things, but you were actually in the game, jumping around in it, and also that it was a dog, and it kind of took the piss out of the entire, like, it felt like it could be a little, I'll just say, like, artsy fartsy, a little up its own behind. I'm not swearing. I caught myself there. A little bit up its own behind backside. As far as, like, as very serious and visual and artistic and what have you, which it is that as well, I hope. But having the dog seemed like, oh, okay, it's not taking itself so seriously.
Yeah.
It's a game. We're here to have fun. Like, kind of balanced it out, I felt like.
That's like a masterstroke. The dog is like perfectly poised to like take the edge off. It's like, because it's funny. And obviously the howling and everything, it's like, oh, this is like, it's like the exact right amount of fun to like keep it on the right side of being like, I guess pretentious maybe, but like I did take away a lot from
word for it. Yeah.
I did take away a lot from the story though. I know it was like, well, I'm not sure, but I know it was maybe not as deep as I thought it was, but I really took away like, I don't know, I found it very affecting.
No, I was really happy to hear that part of it as well. One of the key goals with the story was to not have somebody on the internet be able to say, no, this is exactly what the story is, and then we come in and we're like, yep, that person's right, like they got it. Like it was, we have a meaning in mind for it, but it was definitely intentionally left open enough that people should be able to read certain themes. And I mean, I think certain themes are very overtly or implicitly like hinted at, and but as far as exactly what it means and what you're doing and things like that, I think is a little bit open to interpretation, and that's definitely on purpose. And yeah, his story was never going to be the main course of this. It was never going to be the main driving factor, but hopefully it was another little extra like breadcrumb that kind of kept you motivated and like playing through and entertained, and kind of take a break from a puzzle for a few seconds every few minutes.
Yeah. Okay, this might be a difficult question, I don't know, but just quickly back to the prototype thing and like testing it and making it.
Yeah,
was there any powers that you added and then you were like, we can't actually have those, or like any commands that were like either too powerful or people didn't understand? Or
yeah, CJ, I don't know if did you ever play with Charisma? Did you ever?
I did,
get
yeah.
into the,
Charisma was in the game during.
Do you want to talk
testing,
about what Charisma was?
Yeah, there was a Charisma mechanic in the game where you had to convert others to your side, and it sort of worked like electricity, right? Like where you had to like direct people towards a particular like statue, and then the people would be electrified and they would go towards
I thought
the
of it
others
as them being
and convert
infected,
them.
by the way. I thought of them as, it's interesting that you maybe, because we were messing around during COVID with it, but I always thought of it as, because it would spread
I don't want that
only
update.
when a person...
Don't do the COVID update
Yeah.
to humanity, please.
It would spread when people got into other people, but it was an interesting mechanic, and I think we had too many mechanics. Like
Right.
We did.
It was like
It wasn't as strong as the others.
Yes, the others, not the others. The
other mechanics.
the other mechanics. So we had to say, well, we could either try to get in, refine these levels with this mechanic, or we could take what we already have and refine those better. And so it was a matter of, okay, well, we already have these 7 sequences. This is already more than enough. Like it's arguably going on too much if we do more. There was definitely a potential there. I don't think we entirely figured out how to make that really click. It also wasn't the most it wasn't just very direct, intuitive like all the other commands are, like follow or something like that. Follow as well. There was an old iteration of follow where it worked differently. It basically, the people did whatever the dog did when they reached that point in the level. Do you know what I mean? So if you were running left to right and jumped halfway through and then stopped, the people would still just be following behind you. But then if you kept walking, when the people got to the point where you jumped, they would jump as well.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
And so it could be used with more kind of obstacle heavy levels, kind of jumping over lasers and things like that with follow, which right now in the game, that's like something you have to figure out a way around lasers, right? When people are following you, or a way to turn them off. And that was really cool, but it got really complicated. It was really hard to kind of grok to use in an interesting way that didn't get too complicated. So like Super Time Force, which is, I love that game. It's a really great game, but that game was 2D and used a similar mechanic, but you could actively rewind and do it. It kind of got into a fuzzy area of that, where you had to like plan ahead and remember what you'd done and then stop moving and then only move. And there was something there, but again, it was like, well, let's just stick with follow as a more simple conceit. And there's more than enough stuff to mine. That's a more than enough rich vein of gameplay possibilities already to mine. I feel like, one
of the
those
things,
are a couple.
I was saying about in the podcast was like, it really feels like the game was kind of really pared back to the essentials of this is the core, and that if I felt like there was nothing that was added that wasn't necessary, apart from, we kind of joked about, I know CJ, you joked with me a bit about the fact that saying like it's crazy that there's 3 different types of trees. That's like the one area where you went mad with 3 trees, but everything else was like the core of like the essentials, which I love that challenge for when creating a level, in terms of, because it's like, well, this is the tools you have, and now you have to be creative and imaginative to kind of twist them in a way to do something kind of extravagant, or try and do something not expected. But
I laughed out loud when you guys said the tree thing, because you also noticed like there's like 10 types of blocks, and it's like asphalt, gravel, concrete.
Which shade of
it's
gray?
Like, oh, okay, if you really zoom in on it, that is a different block. But yeah, it's mostly up to the backgrounds to make the stages actually feel different. But you're right about the trees. We were as surprised as well, like watching it from the outside. And I will say, for as far as the paring it back bit, this is just the stuff that we saw. Like the team really tried a lot of stuff. Like just in terms of levels, I think Yugo-san said in a different interview that they estimated that we ended up using probably about 20% of the levels that were made for stages. And that's many, 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 many times iterated on all of those. But like, there were so many types of levels and things cut down and things cut for different reasons. And it was, a lot of them had really cool ideas, but it was like, well, let's leave that up for user stages, because it's too big, or it's too complicated, or it's, the level's too sprawling, or like there were a lot of kind of little rules internally that we ended up with for what makes for a good single player game stages that does not apply at all to what makes a good stage in user stages. And so, then
you can keep the average quality much higher and kind of a more consistent, because I feel like for a puzzle game, if you go up with a puzzle that you don't enjoy or seems too difficult, that's worse than most other genres of games. Like if you're struggling to complete it, and obviously, there is always the guide in the game that you can use if you do get that level of friction. But I am curious, like, is there a plan for kind of continued support? Like, do you see a world where, maybe not story stages, but maybe with user-generated stages, where you would kind of try and add more, like either commands or kind of any new types of mechanics to the game? Is that in the roadmap?
I would say it is a possibility, but it would be totally based on the reception of the game. I mean, something that we're already planning on doing are these like themes. We can do a lot around playlists, what we call playlists in user stages, right? The little themes. So we can create tags that users can use and theme things around, just like what we did with yourselves is kind of like a pseudo contest, but like theming them around things like that. So if we wanted to, things we've already talked about are kind of like Kaizo levels that are really hard, or like autoplay levels that are art, or these are some things that we've already done. People doing other genres in the game and things like that. There's a lot of stuff that we can do outside of like formal DLC with user-generated content and just how we can curate it. And we don't even need to update your game in order to do that, which is like a really, really awesome thing. And so we're going to be, and we already are, but we're experimenting with that a lot, and would love to hear from people what great ideas and what they'd love to see there. As far as more like story content, actual single player stuff, it's not on the roadmap right now. I would say, like, it would not be. I don't think the mechanics. We didn't have like a mechanic that was figured out and was like, oh, okay, this is awesome. It's totally figured out. Even the charisma mechanic, we'll just add that later. So there's not a mechanic that's like sitting there on deck waiting to be used. Now, that said, the user stages at launch did not include the machines, the monoliths and the different laser things that would attack you in the last sequence of the game. And that we are planning to add to user stages. So yeah, that will come as free DLC sometime. We don't have an exact time on when that's going to be, but it won't be too long. Like, I would say this summer is a safe thing to say. And that was just, there was added complexity with that, and we could have rushed to get it in at launch, and we were like, wait a second, there's more than enough here that people are still like figuring out and figuring out all the nuance of and things like that. And then it will be better. A lot of people hadn't seen those things in the single player game yet anyway.
Yeah.
And so we said, let's just hold that back. People can see what that is, understand how it works in the single player game, get ideas for it. And then when user generated levels have been out for like a month or two, then it will be a nice like refresh, a nice reason for some people maybe to come back and make some more levels with it.
Yeah, I've got a level that I was trying to make. I wasn't successful, but I tried to make like a D-Day landing where like the humans come up and land on the beach. But if I could get that laser, then I could. That would be good. I can go back to it with that.
Then
laser.
It could be historically accurate to the
Yeah. Cool. Just wondering how you moderate the user stages, because you said that you had like 3,000 user stages now.
This is a good question for CJ. This is CJ's life right now.
Yeah, there's 3,000 user stages, and actually we don't have to do that much moderation, shockingly. And when we did the demo back in February, we weren't sure how much moderation we would have to do. We kind of planned for the worst, actually. Like, we braced ourselves, like we're going to see people make all kinds of things, and we were kind
moderators
of surprised.
In every time zone ready for the level that's shaped like use your imagination, or the level that's named words that I can't say on this podcast, or what, like having like multiple fail-safe moderators, and it really, like, in every time zone on the globe, weekends and stuff like that. We were really like ready for
we were
brace ourselves. Yeah, especially since we were launching on, as a PS Plus catalog title, and have had just a huge number of people playing the game day one relative to our previous games.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that really hasn't been an issue, surprisingly. And so we've been pleasantly surprised, but yeah, we haven't had to moderate much.
Curate, though, you have had to do, which has taken a lot of time, right?
Yeah, because you have to actually play the stages. Like, you can't just tell what's going to be a good stage by looking at it, right? So some of the most unique puzzles have thumbnails that look like they're nothing. But you go in, you hop in and play, and it's like, oh, okay, this level's doing that. And so that has been really interesting. And I play all the time, all the user stages that I can. And at one point we were like, we should just stream like playing user stages, because it's fun, right? Like, even to play it with somebody else, to like look at the puzzle and be like, how do I figure this out? What mechanics are they using? Is there a cheese that I can use to get to the goal here? Or like, there's a lot of different things there. So yeah.
Should we talk about your guys? I think that's a nice segue into, do we want to discuss your guys' levels? Because
let's do it.
What's one of the things that I think both of your levels had that I was very pleasantly surprised, that is the number one thing, as someone who's been playing Humanity levels now for about 5 years, the number one thing that gets me excited playing the user levels, and this happens definitely more than I thought, and I was surprised that both of your levels had it, is that I think about the game or a certain mechanic in the game in a new way. Like something is used some way that I've not seen it used before. And both of your levels had that. But can we get into that? Do we need to
I'm
set
nervous.
up
I've seen Joe's level, but he's not seen mine. So like I know how good Joe's is, so I'm nervous about my one. So.
Do we need to do any setup about what this was, or does everybody know by
everyone
now?
will know. They'll know the competition. They'll know how serious this is. They'll know that this is.
We're also
how important this is.
We're incredibly competitive.
To be fair, for this, we both explained our concepts of levels to each other before, and we were giving each other tips, and I was kind of suggesting some mechanics, and you were giving me some ideas as well. So but I think for this, when it's like a creative thing, like we're probably less competitive than other things, but normally we are going for each other's throats.
I'm still competitive.
Right on. I see. Well, I'm curious. Before me and CJ talk about the levels, can you guys give like a one-line summary for what you said? You talked to each other and gave yourselves, each other like the pitch.
Yeah.
For the theme behind your level. Do you want to talk about what it was for each of your levels? Joe, do you want to start with Regrow?
Yeah, sure. So my level, it was my first attempt to try and tell a bit of a story. The idea is that there's loads of trees everywhere. The humans show up, all the trees are gone, and then all you can see is it looks almost a bit like a factory. There's conveyor belts and fans and stuff. And then you're trying to push a tree. The idea is meant to be you're planting a tree, then all the trees come back. I can see from Mark's face, the story may not have come across in the gameplay, but that was the concept behind the level. And it was a more linear level. Normally my levels are like a little hub that you're trying to solve puzzles in. It was much more just like a traditional video game level, just kind of, there's more just a linear route you're making your way through, which I hadn't tried before.
Brilliant.
It did kind of feel like a hub though, with different layers of puzzles.
Yeah, it was quite
around
compact, I suppose. But yeah, it was the route you go through was, unless CJ cheesed it, there should be a linear route.
I did not cheese
it.
No, just knowing that there was a story to it, I because I hadn't even it hadn't even occurred to me. Like, I want to think that I would have gotten it if somebody would have just said, "Oh yeah," and like there's a meaning to the title, or like there's a story to it. This happens a lot with our games where like people don't get like the Tetris Effect actually has like a narrative going through journey mode or things like that. Like that happens all the time. I didn't get that at all because I wasn't thinking in that sense at all from your level. But the second that you explain it, it totally is crystal clear to me. And yeah, that is like a chef's kiss. Little bow, like added sprinkles on your levels. Yeah, I know, Ollie.
God,
I don't know what you're gonna do
Yeah, so my level
to top that with your explanation, but go for it.
My level was inspired by like, when you take a dog out for a walk and there's a huge field and like you can't see the dog, but it like jumps and you're like, oh, I can see the dog. So that with the foliage was my starting point, and then I was like, I wonder if I can make something in this game that is like random, because everything is always on timers or rolling a certain way or being pushed a certain way. So I was like, I need to figure out how to make something that is truly random. And if I can do that, then I think I might have made something that's never been done. So I basically just combined those two things. And my level is you're the little dog and the people fly into the foliage, and then you have to go and fetch them, gather them all up, and then bring them back to the goal. Not as good a pitch as Joe's. I mean, Mark's face literally dropped during Joe's pitch.
That's not true.
Yeah, you were like this.
That's not true. I have a very flat poker face expression, a very impartial judge.
It basically depends
if
the random system worked. Like when I was playtesting it, it worked probably 2 out of 3 times, where people were being pushed all over the place or like fired really far. But sometimes they would just go straight down the middle. So it just depends on which version you got, I guess. Yeah.
So and I, first of all, the highest compliment I can give to both of you is that I feel like I'm on American Idol or whatever, Britain's Got Talent or whatever. It's like a turn around. What do I have to give, like a buzzer, an X or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. CJ, do you want to go first? Should I go first? How do you want to do
Either way,
this?
I mean, I thought both levels had ideas that, like you said before, we hadn't seen. And especially the idea of like having a random element and using the fans and motorized blocks in that way was something that when I saw it in the level, I just got this smile across my face, like, oh, this is what this level is doing.
That totally came across. That was like, oh,
Yes.
like I didn't notice. I saw that there were these blocks in the air, and then I played the level a couple times, and I looked back and it was like, oh, wait a second, those blocks up there have fans on them, and that's what's part of what's making stuff go hither and yon, like why it's being different than it was the time before. Which I thought was brilliant and really interesting, and how you used the dog switch and the having to run and try to get the people while you're still seeing them.
Yeah.
In your mind, when you play that level, do you do all 8 people and then run get them, or do you do like 4 and get them and then do 4 more?
I do like 2, because the maximum amount that can come out, I think, is 15, and you have to have 8 to get to pass it. So if you lose 1 and 2, you've almost lost the whole stage. So I was just doing 2 at a time, like eking them out, and then I was thinking about, like, you know, when you do throw a stick for a dog and like it's watching it the whole time. Like, that's kind of why I was like, oh, well, if I make it awkward, like, you have to look up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I was embodying the dog.
That's what I was doing, though. I was trying to rotate the camera up so I could see at all times.
Same.
Yeah.
The first time through, I actually did let more than probably all 15 people go. I was like, okay, this is what I got to do. I got to wait for all of them and then go.
I thought there was only 8 people. I thought it was like, you have to be perfect. There's 8 people are going to leave this door, and you have to get all 8 to the goal. So that's interesting.
I don't know why I thought you might not be able to do it if there was only 8. Like, you guys would be the most expert at this game. You probably could have done it, but I was worried you wouldn't be able to pass it. So I tried to put like almost double. So yeah.
Well, first of all, to back up. So again, I've been playing Humanity levels for 5 years, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm like the average user on any of these, but I can give you part of how we like gave feedback on levels and how we thought about things and levels in the single player game. And so, like, first of all, it seemed like both of you paid some attention to how the levels looked, which is important, right? Which is key. Like, they did not look like the first level that somebody has made and they just like spit it out as fast as possible, because you see those levels, right? And no shade against those levels, everybody has to have like some first levels, but it seemed like they were levels that people spent some time on and like sweated the aesthetics in addition to like some of the gameplay things. Let's go back. We'll come back to Fetch, and I'll start with Regrow. So the first thing that I really liked about Regrow was that I didn't quite get, so all of the trees disappeared suddenly, and I was like, well, am I going to need that later, or do I need to pay attention to what was on that? Am I going to have to know that later? And I was kind of once I solved the level, I was happy that no, you don't have to do that. You're not expected to like pause the level, figure out, the maze at the end, or else you have to reset and do the whole level over again. So that was my first kind of concern, but turned out to not be a concern at all. The first time that I said, oh, this level's doing something that I haven't thought of or seen before, there was 2 things in the very first little section of the level. One is having you push a pushable block to block a climbable wall to make it so people push the blocks rather than climb up it. So like that was like a new thing to me. Like, oh, actually the climbable wall is a bad thing that you can't get around. Climbable wall means people can't push a block.
Yeah.
So thinking of the level in that twist was very interesting to me. I thought that was really cool. There is a way to pretty early on screw yourself and have to reset the level there if you get it's like
yeah, so
like really,
you can push like a fan too far and stuff, but it's like because I try to not have like fail states like that, but it's kind of the first thing you do. So I feel like if you do
Right.
mess it up, a quick restart, keep
Exactly.
the command.
It's
so
not a
that
big-
I wouldn't have had that at the end of the level, but
Right.
there was a weird kind of, or I guess maybe it's a glitch where like I put a blocker at the end of where that fan was to stop it from being pushed because I was like I wouldn't want to go, and then the blocks kind of went inside of each other. So
Couldn't have possibly been a glitch, Joe. That must have been some mistake of
that
yours.
is the only bug I've
That
seen.
must have been some user error
It's
somehow.
the
That
only
couldn't
bug I've
possibly
seen in the
be
whole game,
anything
and it only
wrong
came
with-
about because of the thing I built. So I wasn't stressed about it, but
beta again. Beta.
Yeah, no, of
user,
course, yeah.
user levels is in beta. No, but it is a balancing act, right? That you don't want to make it fail proof, right? There's no it feels like there's no stakes to it and anything like that. And so I think that was smart to have that at the start of the level.
yeah.
The second thing is I still don't really know what is happening with like why when you turn on the first fan that you do by pushing a block on top of it, and the people get pushed across a gap with a fan, and then another fan blows them away that I don't know why they have like residual physics, I guess, from the way that they were walking before they got blown by the first fan. And I was like, oh, I didn't know this would work that way. And so that was a new thing to me. And I actually thought that the goal there was to get people, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, was to get people up to the conveyor belts that are closer to that first section rather than the other section of conveyor belts that are over on the other side. I was puzzling in my head. I was thinking too much and not just trying the thing that I thought must have been the next step, because I thought that I was trying to get people upwards instead of over back to the other first conveyor belt. So then the other thing I'll just say is I think that the conveyor belts, that was fine. That was well done. But the forest maze at the end I thought was really, really well done. And in a way that there's one stage that it reminded me of in the single player stage that used gaps to do it. It didn't use trees, but it used gaps. When you replayed like the very first stage in the game, about halfway through the game, you replay it, but you're controlling others. And it's the same stage, except there's holes in the stage and there's gaps. And so it makes you use just the turn command.
Yeah.
It makes you use just the turn command to get through it. I actually didn't know. I sat there and I was like, did I push the block? Is it possible that I pushed the block in the wrong place and I now can't solve the stage? Because I don't know how well you know making levels and how a thing that would be to make the I'm sorry, how bad a thing that would be to make the user have to start all the way over. But you didn't do that. But it was very devious. The fact that you have to double back in order to get the Goldie.
Yeah.
The normal way of thinking is so ingrained that you're just going to do this one elegant loop and go through it. But the fact that you have to double back, that was great. Like that was really like a nice finishing, like, mwah, on the cherry on top. And again, that was just to get the Goldie. You could finish the stage. It's still not easy, but to get the Goldie did what getting the Goldie should be, which is kind of the extra like challenge. So I felt that you had made a lot of stages. I felt that you had experimented a lot and made a lot of stages and kind of learned some of the lessons. I could kind of tell that from the stage design. So yeah, well done. I think CJ, do you want to add any thoughts to that?
No,
I kind of went deep on it.
I think that's right. And that ending Goldie hunt too, like, you don't want to just run for that exit, right? You want that Goldie because we're all video gamers. We want that extra thing, right? So I sat there on that last little bit, puzzling that out specifically for that. It's like, all right, how am I going to get this Goldie now? Like, all right, we're here. We're at the end. I'm going to get this Goldie. So, yeah, that was great.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you enjoyed that bit.
Cool. And then, yeah, going back to Fetch, Ollie, A plus idea, A plus concept.
Oh no.
There is I feel like fetch is clay. I feel like fetch is this clay that there is an amazing level in there somewhere.
Right.
But in its current implementation, I feel like it's an idea. I feel like it's an idea more than it's a level, which is really hard to find and really great to get. And then I feel like it just takes a bunch of iterations. So like, I feel like sometimes it can be a fun thing to not know clearly from the start, okay, what am I, like, is the expectation that I'm going to stay on this switch or do I need to go person by person? Like, that could be a fun part of it. But the problem that I ran into was that finding the people in the trees, which was another new mechanic that I was like, oh, wait a second. I need to like hold follow and like try to sift the people out of the trees was another new thing that was like, oh, this is really interesting. Like, there is a way to use that, I think, in an interesting way. I think the way that you have it right now is just very simple, very straight, very straightforward. And it almost kind of annoying, though, sometimes when you were like, okay, I think the person is around here. I just have to like run back and forth along the edge until I see the number kind of go up, rather than like using a strategy or like a more action-based thing where you have to be like jumping. I am 1,000% confident that in there, though, and I think some people were other people were talking about this. It's like, yeah, I don't know, maybe there's something with like where the others are involved in there somehow, or you have to be saving people, or like the fail state is not that the number of people is so limited and you have to get them there, that it's a more, it's like a more open challenge. Or this is the part where people giving feedback are terrible at, by the way, is telling you what how to like, there's no like quote unquote fixing a level. The person who makes the level just basically like, in all our things, a lot of times we would like suggest stuff. And most of the times when we ended up with the solution, it was not something we suggested. And sometimes it was as simple as like moving a block a couple spaces or something like that. But the sifting people out of the roughage, I think is really interesting in a sense, just not in a way where, at least for me personally, where there's only a certain tiny number of people and I have to get a certain number, and then if not, like that failed the level. It felt like there was it was like really strict and maybe too simple of a goal and yet too strict at the same time to have like real fun with it.
I feel like I'm in a review at work, like a management review. So I feel like I'll try harder next quarter.
But again, the thing that I don't want to like gloss over is that, I think there's two really interesting ideas there, the randomness thing, and then also the like filtering people out of something where you can't see exactly where you're getting them from. I think is like, there's absolutely like a potential there for something for that to go into something. I would just say like, yeah, let's keep iterating on this idea. If this had been in the game,
is this your first level, Ollie? Is this your first level you made?
No, it's my third one. Okay. So I made the D-Day one,
that's
which
amazing.
didn't work. The D-Day one didn't work. And then I did the elevator one, which we had a video on. And then I did this one.
Okay.
So, because I was basically, I was like, I'm not smart enough to come up with a brain teaser. And then I played on the user stages as one that's like a rocket. And I was like, if I just have a level that's just a nice idea, that's kind of enough, like it doesn't need to be like some mad brain teaser that takes like hours to figure out. So that was my inspiration.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's true. Yeah. And so, and I would say, sometimes it is. And for your third level, like that's amazing that you already have two original ideas that, again, we've been playing these stages for forever that we hadn't seen before. But yes, if we have to crown a winner, it's not based on effort or anything. But if we have to crown a winner, I think we have to go with Regrow. I think was the
congratulations.
The choice of myself and CJ and Charles. Yes. So is there a ceremony now? Yeah, the formal the formal crowning ceremony or whatever can begin. But
Can commence.
it is the ultimate compliment that you guys even took the time to make the stages, and again, like the fact that you did that and came up with something. I mean, my personal expectations, without knowing you guys that well, or certainly not having played any of the other stages that you had done, were blown away by what you did, by what you both did. So I do want to compliment
Completely.
you both on that.
Even as somebody who has played a lot of user stages, I was blown away just by the inventiveness in both stages.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yeah.
My
cool.
connection went just as I was clapping Joe, so it's probably like the worst possible time for me to disconnect. It probably looked like I was just sitting here like... But I was clapping and then you just all started breaking up. But I'm very happy, Joe. You did a great job. Congratulations. And thank you both for facilitating this as well. So
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
guys.
It's been
Of course.
amazing. And it's just
Fun.
so nice. Like, there's nothing nicer than like, oh, I feel so sorry for my partner because every level I make, I'm like, play it. Like, let me watch you play it. And they're like, no, you're obviously doing it wrong. And obviously it's like, no, it's bad level design if it's not clear. But there's nothing more satisfying than like working on a thing and then getting like really good feedback. I guess it's kind of, once again, it kind of goes full circle to what you guys were talking about before we started the podcast, about how much you enjoyed our podcast because it was us talking about the game overall in depth and kind of what we enjoyed, and you've kind of given that back to us now by going in depth and talking about, you know, our little stages that we added to the game.
yeah.
Our pleasure. I mean, yeah, maybe you get a taste of what it's like for us now, watching people on streams and stuff playing the game. And like, this is one of the great, especially with this game now that there's user stages, and you're able to tell by what people make in the user stages what they're enjoying of the game, but also just, all the videos and podcasts and streams of people playing the game. It's so fun and satisfying seeing people, you know, enjoying something that you worked on, and also surprising us with it, your own stuff sometimes. Very cool.
Congratulations to you both on a successful launch, I'd say. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The
so
game is
much.
amazing. I don't know how Enhanced keep doing it. Like, you're setting yourself a high bar every time. After Tetris Effect, I was like, something big's got to be coming now, and you've done it again. So yeah, looking forward to the future too. I mean, I know you've only just released a game, but whatever's after. What's that as well?
Come on, give us a Ali, please. Give us a break. No, that's so nice of you. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that.
I do have one more question for you. It's not about Humanity or Enhance.
Sure.
But it is about Japan. Me and Joe are thinking of coming to Japan, and I know that it's
Awesome.
very humid over there. So when would you say is the best time of year to visit?
Unfortunately, it was about a month ago. It was
Okay.
May. Yeah, we're in kind of the rainy season now, and then when you come out of, it's already pretty humid, but when you come out of this, it's July and August, and then even September. October actually, and into the later fall is not bad. October, if you can make it, is a beautiful time of year to be here. And I will say, like, it is really hot and humid, and more crowded here in the summer. But there's some other stuff to enjoy that's only going to happen in the summer. There's these giant firework displays. A lot of the traditional festivals happen in the summer. There's a lot of summer specific things and activities and things like that. You'd have a great time whenever you come here. But just do come, and definitely let us know when you guys make it.
Yeah, for sure.
We'd love to host you. Yeah.
Amazing, thank you. I'm just thinking about Joe's hair with the humidity. I think it would. I'm not sure which way it would go, but it would go. Like, it's gonna.
It might expand a couple of sizes. Yes, but absolutely. Have you guys been to Japan before? Ever?
No,
No,
never.
We're planning.
Oh my
Talk
god!
about it
Oh my
on
god!
stage.
All right.
Yeah.
Please make this happen, and definitely do let me know. Like, you will absolutely love it. Yeah, it's definitely make it happen.
Nice one. Okay, I think we're done. So thanks so much, guys. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us. And Humanity is available now. It's on one of the tiers of the PlayStation. I don't know which one of them. I've got it, so maybe the middle
Catalog title, Ali.
There
As
we go.
everyone knows,
There we go.
it's called catalog title.
Everyone
which
knows.
means CJ, what are the names of those? They're different.
Extra and premium.
Europe.
Okay.
Yeah, or consult your local listings. But yeah, and Steam as well.
Yeah.
Also available on Steam. Makes a great Steam Deck stocking stuffer.
Actually, Muppet, who made levels for us, did it on the Steam Deck, and he said it works perfectly. So there we go.
Nice. Cool.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. Okay, well, cheers,
cool.
guys. And I think that
Cheers,
will be
thank
it.
you.
So we'll see everyone in the next one. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Before you go, there's one last thing I need to let you know about. Not only were Enhance really generous by doing this collaboration with us and spending all of this time doing this interview, they also got a few more of their developers to play through our levels and record their feedback. And it's really interesting. It's really nice for us because they're very complimentary. But it didn't really fit into this main video. So I've uploaded it as a separate video that you can watch. There'll be a link, hopefully, somewhere on the screen here, and also a link down in the description if you want to go and watch that. And yeah, I recommend it because it's really cool seeing their insight. So once again, thank you so much to everyone at Enhance for collaborating with us on this project. Thank you to you for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.